Good. Yeah, that's what I heard it was, that crosstown trail project.
Yeah, so the opening is done in February. Been around.
Yeah, they know how to handle it sometimes, they just forget.
Well, of course. It's been cold. It does show like up coals.
Good deal.
Yeah, see that.
I usually
It
just
shows on the top.
got a loose one so you guys figure it out.
It doesn't show on ours, but it shows on the top.
It shows.
That's good. It's the horseshoe. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Tom said that you would be a little bit late. Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. A lot going on. Yeah. Much better. It should be joining us soon. Anyway. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone and call to order the study meeting of the West Valley City Council. This February 11th, 2025. We're beginning our meeting at 4:31 p.m. in the multi-purpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have Councilman Hune will be here soon, but we have Councilmember Norfelt, Councilmember Wood, Councilmember Whetstone, Councilmember Harmon, Councilmember Christensen, and myself. In a few minutes, we'll be joined at the table with our city manager, Mr. Peely, and we're joined now with our city recorder, Ms. Kamick. Councilman Hune will be here soon. We have our minutes of January 28th, 2025. Turn those to the council for discussion or a motion.
Move to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those stand approved. We'll have review of our regular meeting agenda this evening. We have a couple changes to our meeting. Turn the time to Nicole.
So first, we added 2 proclamations to our regular meeting agenda. We have one for the FBLA from Hunter High School, Future Business Leaders of America. We will have some students from Hunter coming tonight to accept that. We also have a proclamation from the Interfaith Council to recognize their World Interfaith Week. We'll also have representatives from there as well. Additionally, we added 2 items to the consent agenda. One is just appointing Miss Cindy Wood to our housing authority. RDA and building authority are automatically, but state law requires that we actually take action on the housing authority one. We've added that. And then I've also added just a resolution to add Ben Anderson to the Magna Mosquito Abatement District. Cindy was able to break a tie for our 2 candidates, so they're eager to get someone on board. And then, is there anyone that would be willing to read those proclamations tonight? No.
I'll read the FBLA one.
Okay. Anyone with the interfaith?
I'll do the interface.
Okay. Awesome. And then Jamie had an update to one item on the agenda as well, Mayor, if that's okay.
Have her come up and give that to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jamie Young, Parks and Recreation Director. So last week we presented to you a resolution to award an agreement to replace some of the backflow prevention devices in the park for the irrigation system. And we had confirmed with the contractor that they could do it for that price because their price was pretty significantly less than some of the other bids. And so before we told them that it was our intent to award to them, we confirmed that they could do it and he assured us that he could. But when we sent him the agreement, he triple checked the price and the price had gone up for the materials involved. So rather than doing 10 of the valves at 121,000, we've changed the agreement to be 8 of the valves for 128,000. So he has assured us that he can actually do it for that. It is 2 fewer for a similar price. And it will just take us a few extra years to get all of the valves completed.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank
Great.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right, did anybody else have questions on tonight's agenda? All right, we'll move on to our ordinances and we'll turn the time over to Chief Evans for an update on our central, or never mind, I'll just let you describe it.
Thank you. This is a fee schedule update that amends section 12105. One of the biggest reasons we've done this is the fact that it had been a while and the code changes with the International Fire Code. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing matches the current International Fire Code. The references, they were way out of date. So that was the biggest one. And as we were going through it, some of the fees, the next two, we found that there was a jumble of fees. So instead of, if a business, there was 4 different fees they would have to pay, we condensed them into one. Does that make sense? It's a little easier as they're coming in for their permits to do it all in one. And then the last one that is new is we added a fee schedule in there that we're not doing right now. But in the future, if we wanted to have a company charge for certain fees for responses, and I'm going to give you some, for instance, there's other cities with auto wrecks. If we're putting down, Quigsorb, some of the hazardous materials incidents we go on, there is an ability, if we so choose, to do that in the future. But as we were changing it, we added that in. Here again, we're not doing it. But in the future, if we wanted to, it would be in this code section.
Okay, any questions of Chief? Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, we're now going to start the Brandon Hill show. So we'll have him come up and go over resolution 25-23. And then we'll just leave him up there through 25.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Brandon Hill with the legal department. I was going to make the joke that you're working me like a rented pastoric, and then I realized I volunteered for half of this. You tell me, I'm getting dumber every year. All right. So just as a brief summary before we get into the slides. So the proposal that is here is to transfer the housing authority's Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is currently administered by the authority, over to Housing Connect, which is the housing authority of the County of Salt Lake. Excellent. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of how we've gotten to where we are today and what the Housing Choice Voucher Program is and why we think it's a good idea to get it moved over. So the Housing Authority was created in 1984, and it was kind of the vogue thing to do at that time. A lot of jurisdictions did that, and the idea was to try and do urban renewal in inner city cores that were sort of declining with the suburban transition and a lot of those things, housing becoming more difficult. And so the Housing Authority tool was coming on a little bit after the creation of HUD as a cabinet department. And so there are some places where the housing authorities have a pretty aggressive role in regulating the housing market. So if you go to a place like a New York City or a Boston, you'll see things like rent control. You'll see local housing standards that are city specific, things like that. None of that's permitted in Utah. It's a much more limited scope here in Utah. So in Utah, housing authorities do 2 things. So they manage public housing projects and they administer the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. So A public housing project is essentially housing that we own and operate, and so we will rent it out at a discount rate, and receive some subsidy from the federal government. Over the last probably 20 years, we have slowly disposed of our public housing properties. And so we no longer operate any public housing projects. These are difficult to maintain and they've got a pretty mixed record. So some of the real horror stories of public housing that you'll see in places like Chicago, we never had anything like that, but it is a real thing that it's very difficult to run. And so we no longer do that. And so what the Housing Authority has is just residual interest in tax credit projects, which come with maintenance obligations, but there's no net revenue there. And so those projects can't be disposed of for literally until a 2104 in doing the research in terms of actually selling them for profit. So they have to be administered as these low income tax credit housing. So the Housing Choice Voucher Program is the last substantial program that's left that's run through the Housing Authority. And what's interesting about that is that because of the way federal law works and the way Section 8 works, the Housing Authority can't limit services to West Valley residents or to West Valley properties. And so many, if not most, recipients of our Section 8 vouchers have never actually lived in West Valley and aren't using their vouchers in West Valley. And so you'll have somebody who currently lives in Salt Lake who will come in, they'll get approval for a voucher, and they'll use their voucher to rent an apartment in Midvale. And so that all happens through the West Valley Housing Authority. So the vouchers are exactly the same in West Valley. In Salt Lake County, Housing Connect is the brand name of their authority, as well as the Salt Lake City Housing Authority. But the residents have to get on all three different waiting lists, fill out 3 applications for exactly the same benefit. The program rules and regulations are the same in all 3 jurisdictions. And so what you're seeing is that the operational costs, like everything else, are going up to run this program, as is the subsidy that is required to keep this going. And so HUD has a process where you can voluntarily transfer operations from one housing authority to another. And so this is called a voluntary transfer. And so there's a process through HUD where if you have a willing recipient who can do that, then they take on the vouchers and administer those themselves. And so Housing Connect is willing to do that, to take on our 530 plus vouchers, as well as the tax credit property interests. And so we, if the council approves, we'll go through that process with HUD. The transition date would be targeted for July 1st. And so at that time, vouchers, program balances, and clients shift over to housing. So in that process, nobody loses their housing. Everybody who has a voucher keeps their voucher. They just have a new case manager at Housing Connect. So nobody has to move. Nobody gets kicked out. It's just another entity administering that program instead of us. Probably the biggest question that you might have is in terms of the employees. And so in discussing this with Housing Connect, our current Housing Authority employees will have the option to continue with Housing Connect after July 1st. And so Housing Connect has agreed to offer them positions if they so desire. And they're also, of course, free to apply for anything that opens up here in the city. And so after we do that July 1st transfer, there's a final audit that happens as a result or as part of the city's year-end audit process. HUD closes out the program. The transition is complete. And so at that point, the Housing Authority's entity is done, or the Housing Authority entity will be finished with its work, and we would essentially disband that entity at that time. Should the city decide to re-enter the housing space to do additional housing projects, there are a number of tools available in statute to do that. So you could do something like the First Home Opportunity Zone. You could do the transit-oriented zones. You could do a partnership with the Housing Authority or do something through the RDA. There are a lot of different choices to do that if we decide to get back into the housing business. And so any questions about this proposal?
Usually on tax credit projects, there are reserves, operating reserves, and that's it.
Will the debts and the reserves of those tax credit projects all transfer over?
They will. And so for the Campbell Court, which is the primary, which is the biggest of those, and it's actually the only tax credit project on the books that we have. Most of that administration is done through Utah Nonprofit Housing Corporation as it is. So we have a minority interest there. So most of that outfit actually won't change at all. It's just the 1/3 residual interest that we would pass over.
The Utah Nonprofit Housing have to sign off on the transfer, or are they aware of it, or?
They don't, but they're supportive.
So you mentioned they have a process to do that. Do they have to approve it, or is it just sort of a paperwork?
They do have to approve it. We have met with the HUD regional director who is supportive. So in the past, HUD has been supportive of this idea of consolidating overlapping jurisdictions. And so, for instance, both in our case, we have three. We have the Housing Authority here in West Valley, we have Housing Connect and the Salt Lake City Authority that all have the same jurisdiction. And so HUD in the past has been supportive of that. You can imagine that under the new administration, consolidating things is probably not going to be viewed less favorably. And HUD was supportive and we discussed that.
How many housing employees do we have in the city?
So we have 4 who are linked to the Housing Authority. And when I say Housing Authority employees, they are technically city employees, but their function is solely Housing Authority. And so one of those is retirement eligible and is planning on retiring. And so for her, this is natural time to do that. And for the other 3, they'll be offered positions at Housing Connect. They don't have to take those. Obviously, they can apply for an open position at the city or do something else. 13th Amendment is still a thing, so we can't make them. But that will be an option for them all.
Is Housing Connect offering a similar salary and benefits, or?
Yeah, same salary.
Any other questions on this issue? Okay, we'll move along to resolution 25-24. Mr. Hill.
All right. This one is the kind of thing that Mr. Lehman used to do, and it's a little bit different. So it's a subdivision plat. It's the same, but it's different. And so that's why I volunteered for it. So as you know, the state has required that subdivision plats no longer come through city council, and we've amended our ordinances to comply with that. And so the reason that we need city council action on this item is that this proposed subdivision plat would adjust some property lines that have us giving and receiving property along the edges of this lot in the plat. So essentially, here's what happened. So the Garf lot, which I believe is lot 5, has a fence with the city property where the city has built a fence that didn't exactly follow the property line. And so as a result of that, it creates this situation where the fence is here and the city owns a little bit beyond the fence, and then the city's fenced in a little bit of Garf. And so to save time and expense for everybody, what the plat amendment, among other things, proposes to do is just align that lot line with the fence line. And so the amount of property going to Garf and coming from Garf is nearly equal. The difference is about 50 square feet, which is obviously a whole lot less work than rebuilding a full fence along there. And so, so this action is not to approve the plat amendment, but to approve our transfer as part of that plat amendment process. And so with the council's approval, we'll do the deeds and take care of the plat amendment from there.
And this is the old newspaper agency property, right?
Believe it butts up against there, yeah.
Okay. Any questions on this issue? Okay, let's move to 25-25.
All right, and the easiest of the 3. So this is a renewal of our agreement with SRS Sustainable Real Estate, and this is our CPACE program. So essentially what the CPACE program is, it stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy, and it offers preferential lien treatment for projects that meet certain clean energy guidelines. And so if you're doing a super efficient solar design, if you're doing geothermal or something wild like that, you could qualify for this CPACE funding. And so under the statute, you used to have to do bonds for this. So it used to be a thing where the city would have to actually issue a bond and service it. And unsurprisingly, not a whole lot of cities wanted to do that because the risk of taking on the bonding was too much and the costs were too high and all of that. And so the act was amended to allow third-party financing. So essentially a lender can come in and do a loan under the CPACE program directly to the builder. And the city doesn't have to take on any of the risk. And so under the statute, our only involvement is designating the area, and it's 100% consent transaction. So the property owner says, I want to do the CPACE loan. The city says, great, we'll designate this area for you if you've got a third-party lender, and SRS does the work, and their fees are charged to the builder. And so it's the kind of thing that isn't used terribly often. We've done a couple of projects in the last 2-3 years that have done funding through this, and we would anticipate something similar to that. But on both of those projects, I have done literally 0 minutes of work after closing. So I'm a big fan of SRS for that reason.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hill? Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you.
All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Bunderson for resolution 25-26 for the purchase of some dash cams.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I was just gonna ask Brandon to keep rolling, but he'll be back. So I think at the budget retreat last year, I talked to the council about this a little bit, and we finally gotten the contract wrangled to the point that we're asking you if we can purchase these devices. So what we'd like to do is purchase about 120 of these driver eyes. And as a little bit of background, the most frequent claims that the city gets and some of the most expensive are car accidents. They're difficult to litigate or settle because what often happens is there's a whole bunch of sort of questionable injuries that happen, especially when they see that it was a police car or a West Valley car that hit them. And so they go to the chiropractor and run up a whole bunch of bills. We don't have governmental immunity for traffic accidents because they come under the negligence statutes. And so the goal of risk management is to try to reduce the accidents because that's the best way to do it. Fighting them is always going to take time and be expensive. So a couple years ago, the police department came upon these driver eye cameras, they're called, and they started testing them in a limited scope. They had about 20 of them that they use for corrective action when their own officers get into accidents. They've done pretty well, and other big organizations also use them, Amazon, trucking companies, things like that. So how it works is, as you can see from the picture here, there's a front-facing camera and a rear-facing camera, like a GPS. I don't know what the motion detector things that your phone has. And so I actually put one of these in my personal car for 2 weeks and drove around with it. And I think it's really good. I might drive like an old man, but I still, at the end of the day, or at the end of the 2 weeks, I feel like it really had some value for me. It detected a lot of rolling stops. Apparently, I'm not a big, like full stop at the stop sign guy. It will, if you're looking at your phone, we tested this in a safe area. If you're looking at your phone, it will squawk at you after a minute. If you yawn, it will, tell you you're driving tired. It sometimes catches you if you're singing along with the radio and says that you're tired. But it also does following too close. And then it will give risk management, which we'll manage this in risk management. It will give us a report of all these cameras. And then it will also be used, if you approve the purchase, to give positive reinforcement, because you can get a good report if you're a good driver, and we can award those people probably with just praise for being good drivers. So how we've how we planned the rollout is that we want to install these cameras with all probationary employees, all vehicles that are assigned a certain person beyond that. In the pool, shared vehicles that we have at City Hall here, and then save some in reserve for disciplinary or corrective action for employees who get in accidents and put those in their cars. We're going to do it through the whole fleet, not just the police department. So, you know, the Public Works and everyone who drives cars will be assigned a pro rata portion of the cameras. And then the thing we were wrangling with the company about was we only wanted a 1-year contract. We didn't want a 3-year renewing contract because we want to really take a good hard look at the numbers and see if this is working after a year, being very conscious of the taxpayer money that we're spending on this. And if it doesn't work, then we'll move on and try to find something else. So that's the plan. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Bunderson?
Will this be in addition to the current dash cam that's on?
Our vehicles don't have dash cams anymore. We haven't had them for a number of years. The police officers' body cams will kick in, but we don't have dash cams.
Camera's only facing the driver. It's not facing out on the road.
It's both ways. Yeah, so it'll see if you're getting too close to someone in front of you. It'll actually see the periphery a little bit too. So if you're too close to somebody on this side. Yeah, I mean, look, the employees are not going to like me if you approve this because it's a little naggy, I'll tell you. But again, at the end of the day, I feel like I was a better driver after having this in my car for 2 weeks, and I think it's a good system.
Do we need 121? Sir, doing it on these assignments?
Yeah, I think that's a good number. I think that will have that'll give us a good sample size throughout the city. Originally, that number was mostly for police cars, but in discussing with the departments, we didn't think that was fair to just kind of punish the police. And so I still think the number 120 is going to be adequate to give us a good results and have a few in reserve.
How many cars do we have in our fleet?
Ooh, 600-ish.
You're not quite that high, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like any other questions.
Thank
Thank you. All right, we'll now turn the time to Mr. Johnson for authorization of a interlocal agreement.
Good afternoon, Dan Johnson. This is an interlocal agreement with West Valley City and Salt Lake County. Since the city incorporated, we have contracted with Salt Lake County to do traffic signal maintenance. It's made sense for us because it takes a great level of expertise to maintain traffic signals. And quite frankly, we probably don't have enough to have our own crew that does that solely. And so the county has provided great service to us. And they have that expertise. They've been very responsive with our requests, whether it be cars crashing into traffic signals in the middle of the night. They send an on-call crew out to go and deal with those types of issues, and we get calls and they deal with them, and we're pleased with the service. So we have annual maintenance that is associated with each traffic signal, and that's about $1,600 per signal. We own a portion of a total of 57 signals. But if you add up our share between shared signals, we're paying for 47 3/4 of a traffic signal for the annual maintenance. And then we pay time and materials for miscellaneous repairs and upgrades that we request. So roughly we budget about $160,000 for all of these traffic signal improvements that we pay to the county. And we're asking for the city council to authorize this agreement.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Wilson for our overlay zone, asphalt overlay project.
Good afternoon, Kobe Wilson with the Engineering Division. So we opened bids for our 2025 asphalt overlay project at the end of January. And we had quite a few responses. We had 7 responses for the project. The lowest responsible bidder was Kilgore. They've actually done the overlay project for us the last 2 years. So good to have an experienced contractor to be working with. Their bid came in at around just under 4.3 million. And we are recommending to authorize the Public Works Department to spend up to 4.5 million to complete this project this year. So this project includes about 3 miles of overlay on some of our major roads, and it also includes the speed humps that have been discussed on 4400 West, 4400 South, sorry, Stanton Drive and Westshire. So those will be included in this project as well.
Okay, any questions from the council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Springmeyer. The disposition of property.
Afternoon, Council. Jonathan Springmeyer, Economic Development Director. Before you is an amendment number 2 to the ADL, the agreement to develop land between West Valley City Redevelopment Agency and West Valley Land Holdings LLC. The amendment would transfer what's indicated in the agreement as Lot 2 from the city ownership to West Valley Land Holdings. See on the map, which is behind me, which property is Lot 2. Lot 2 is part of the parking lot, was always intended to be included in the land transfer for this. It was not originally included because the bond that we had on this required that to be a holdback for access to the newly built police station, as the other roadways weren't completed at the time. That property has since been released from the bond, so it is eligible to be transferred, as I said, as was originally intended.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Springmeyer? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now turn the time to Ms. Young for our challenge forms.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jamie Young, Parks and Recreation Director. So you guys may recall this project was brought to you in late 2022 or early 2023. And as we looked at what that issue paper and what was approved, we kind of determined that it was very unclear what the total cost of the project was and what the city was paying. So I wanted to make sure that you understood what was happening with this. So this is a partially grant funded challenge course and 40-yard dash that's part of the Westview expansion. The grant is through the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant, as being there adjacent to the Salt Lake Canal Trail. They were really excited about adding this type of amenity there at the Westview expansion. So originally the total cost of the project was $395,000. That was reduced a little bit because some of the construction that was done as part of the total phase 1, which included the parking lot and some other improvements at the new property. The curbing and some of the stuff that was originally included in the bid was included in the construction cost. In 2023, we paid $167,000 toward that. So the total amount due is $198,000. And then with the grant, the amount that the city has left to pay is $79,000. The grant did pay a little bit less. There were some delays. Again, this was originally brought to you a little bit over 2 years ago, and there were some delays. As you recall, you wanted to have more amenities and put in at the time rather than just the challenge course. So we added the playground. So with some delays with the planning and the design from our landscape architect, as well as some things that we needed to do for public works for the curb and gutter and sidewalks. Just with some of those delays, the grant was a little bit less than what we originally anticipated. So the total amount due at this time is $79,000. We have received the grant, which will reimburse part of the $198,000 that would have been that's due at this time, but the $118,000 will be covered by That will cover all but that's 79,000. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear, the total cost of what the project was and what the city was obligated to pay. And it should be, the rest of the construction is more or less done. There's some landscaping that needs to be done. And so getting this approved, they'll work on it as soon as the weather allows.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Young? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have our consent agenda with 2 items on it that are our typical purchase agreements, deeds and easements. Does the council have any questions on these 2 items? Okay, seeing none. The council has does the council have any objections to adding the 1 ordinance and the 8 resolutions to the consent agenda for the regular meeting on February 25th? Or do you want to add some of them and not all of them?
I think the housing authority should be separate.
Okay,
I think we the transfer of property.
okay,
I think we could do all the resolutions separate and put the ordinance into the consent agenda.
So keep all the resolutions and just transfer the ordinance. Okay.
that fine with everyone? Okay. I saw not, that's not. All right. Let's see. Next, we have the review for the RDA and the special housing authority meetings on the 25th. The one is the counterpart to 25-29. So does Mr. Springmeyer want to come up and?
It's just the same exact
Same thing?
item. Yep,
Okay.
it's just, we have to approve it on the city side as well as the RDA side, and the same with the housing authority. We just have to approve it on the city side as well as the housing authority. So no different information, same item, just 2 different boards.
So is the chair of each of those fine with those?
So the approval on the city side is more or less just our support of the transfer. There's nothing, but on the housing authority side, it's
Pretty much.
The actual transfer?
And then on the RDA, you could just correct the name spelling under the
Oh,
call
yes.
order.
Yep, I will
So
do that.
yes.
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, well, if we're good with that, then we'll move to our communications item and University of Utah Health update, and we'll ask, yep, go ahead, you can introduce yourself and who's here for your support team.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for having us here. We're excited. Have our esteemed colleagues on the West Valley Hospital and Health Center team from U of U Health. First of all, we have Geraldine Stowe, our Director of Communications, Dr. Aaron Prusson, our Chief Medical Officer for Ambulatory in West Valley, Riley Curtis, our Director of Community Engagement, and Aisha Jensen, our Associate Executive Director of System Planning and Leader for West Valley. We are excited here to give an update on what we're planning for West Valley, and so excited that the slides moved on their own. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. We are super honored to be here and just really thank all of you who've been with us through this planning for the Hospital and Health Center for West Valley with the University of Utah Hospitals and Clinics and Health Center. And I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Gina Hawley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for University of Utah Hospitals and Clinics. For us, our vision is really the health and education and impact to partner with West Valley and be with West Valley. And President Randall has been a huge partner and committed advocate for this. And he talks about unsurpassed societal impact. And for us, there's no better place to do it than West Valley. The slide that you could see here, some of the events and community things that we have done for West Valley, and we're just super honored to do it. But we also know that we have some opportunity with healthcare that we could improve within West Valley. Out of our inpatient beds in the area, 9 out of 10 inpatient beds are on the east side of the interstate. Only 1 out of 10 are on the west side. West Valley community members, patients, and their loved ones on average travel 12 million miles a year to get their care back and forth to other U of U health sites or other health centers as well. And in certain zip codes, when you compare to the main campus of University of Utah and to some zip codes in West Valley, there's a 10-year life difference in expectancy between West Valley and Salt Lake City, which is astonishing. So we know we have some opportunity, and that's why we're excited to partner. We believe the unsurpassed societal impact for us having a hospital and health center is just the right thing to do, and we're excited to partner with you all and continue the great work ongoing. And I will note that I have been lucky to be in healthcare for over 20 years. I have worked in different places across the country. I've been part of hospitals and healthcare builds in Portland, Oregon, and Baltimore, Maryland, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I will note the work of the community engagement and feedback is unparalleled to what we have done with the West Valley community. And I want to give a kudos to the team here. This was before my time. I've been at the U for 2 years, but it is amazing to see the partnership here. It is not us, as myself as a hospital administrator, saying what the community needs. It is the community telling us what they need. And it's super exciting. On the slide, you see some of the snippets from the multiple community forums, engagements, meetings we've had. And you could see some of these are direct quotes, right? Our community needs access to healthcare and mental health, that we can elevate patient care in our community with better language access and hiring from the community, that education pathways to achieve goals will be life-changing, especially for our youth. And last but certainly not least, the person-to-person support as well as family mentoring to empower people. And really, right, isn't that what it's all about, to empower people in our communities? And so just what an honor it is to be with all of you and with the community here. And again, it's just been amazing work. And I want to note what Aisha and Riley passed out. It gives a little bit more information on the engagement we've had the last couple of years with West Valley in this pursuit of the hospital and health center. So as of today, there's a lot of work, as you know, that goes in building a healthcare facility. We have looked at our project costs and so forth. There had been a little bit start and stops and starts again, just giving funding and budget. And we have projected our project costs. We've looked at our timeline and phasing, which I'll talk about here in a bit. Really exciting momentum with fundraising and potential donors. We may have some updates in the next couple of months of where we are there. And the location is confirmed at 3750 South and 5600 West. Some of you may have been aware that we had been looking at some other sites. At the end of the day, we wanted to make sure we got the best site for West Valley. And we are very confident that we have that best site. So in terms of project phasing, on the left-hand side in the red is the West Valley Health Center. This is a multi-specialty clinic building, outpatient center. If some of you have seen our services at South Jordan or Sugar House, if you pass by that building, it's actually going to be bigger than those buildings. This is going to be our biggest ambulatory center out of all of U of U Health. So super exciting. It will include about maybe 200 clinic rooms and other services estimated, and it will have multi-use community space. So it will be our largest multi-specialty clinic and outpatient health center. In the teal is our phase 1B, that's inpatient beds and supporting services. It will be U of U Health's first community hospital. And again, very exciting. When completed, it will generate 2,000 new jobs. So right, when we talk about that unsurpassed societal impact, it's not just about delivering care. For us, that's really important. That's what we do. We love delivering care, but it's also about the education, the pathways, building more of a base for people if they're interested to get jobs at the center. And studies show within healthcare delivery that if patients get their care through people who are from their community, who speak their language, who understand where they're coming from, you have better patient outcomes, better patient experience. Patients are less likely to cancel appointments. So we are really committed to really opening up pathway programs, job opportunities for West Valley. And actually, we have employees and team members who are excited, who actually work at our other centers, but want to work here because they live in the community. So we're really, we're already planning for these pipeline programs and other things as we move forward. Phase 1A, the West Valley Health Center, so this is our multi-specialty outpatient center, will offer all these items you see on the slides. They'll have operating procedure rooms, endoscopy suites, infusion, lab, emergency department, ambulatory care, imaging, and oncology care. And again, just really exciting menu of services. This is a little bit more detail on those services that we have, and sorry. And I will note these services, I won't run through all of these, but again, just as a general reminder, because of that community engagement and relationships, and what we heard is that we really did focus on what the community wanted. So things like primary care, mental health, heart care, musculoskeletal, right? Your bones, orthopedics. That is what we really aim for to really build. Dental care. These are some of the services that we have planned for the hospital and clinics. Dr. Preston, did I miss anything from your point of view on this list?
As we all know, medicine has become more specialized since I graduated medical school 36 years ago. And having all these specialties at one site really improves the ability of providers to communicate with each other and coordinate care. Because one of the big problems we have in healthcare now is fragmentation of care because of subspecialization. And you see someone for your spleen, you see someone for your liver, you see someone for your right big toe. This model where you have all these specialties under one roof really kind of breaks down that fragmentation and I think overall improves the quality of care. Needless to say, it improves the patient experience and the ease of receiving care. And this model has worked extremely well at Farmington, South Georgia. So it's exciting. And as Gina said, this is going to be like South Jordan, but much larger, and more services will be offered.
Thanks, Dr. Preston. I will note that he actually said something that just cued me. Riley Curtis has talked about wraparound services. And we've talked about that in a lot of our discussions because that's the need, right? If we have our community and our patients and loved ones coming, we don't want them having to go to different sites, right? We want them to get all the service they have. So Dr. Preston mentioned that. That's why the services, you see a long list here. It's because we really want to try as best possible meet all the needs. I will note something that's very important to us, and this come up multiple times of questions, is great on the patient care services. What about community space? What are we going to do to offer, not just to have this be a place for people to have care, but for them to have a warm, welcoming space, to have education, counseling, birthing classes, nutrition, et cetera. And so we are building that into the program as well. So super exciting. Again, not just to go there for care when you're maybe at your sickest, but also when you are feeling well and you want that community, which West Valley does so well. This is a little bit of a complicated slide. This actually tells our timelines. On the first part above the red dotted line is the first phase with our ambulatory center. We are right now what we call in design charrettes. We are sort of looking to finalize which company we're going to go with and getting some ideas, initial thoughts on how this will work. We're going to design and construction and then planning for move-in and occupancy mid-2028. Below is phase 1B, and we're starting this in parallel. You could see going through the different design phases, going to construction phase, and then move in late 2029. You will note there's a gap between 1A and 1B. Part of that is just really making sure we're going through the adequate services, the funding, and so forth, but also that our teams have enough time to really plan for the different phases and approach. So in terms of these builds, you always do have a little bit of time of transition. With that, I just want to thank you. I do want to ask Aisha and Riley, Geraldine, and Dr. Preston if I missed anything to come up as well. But we're just honored to be with you, and we just really thank you for the opportunity. Any questions?
Any questions from the council?
I had a question, more just a comment. The response I've heard from residents are overwhelmingly, excited to have this in our community. The only, there are a handful of residents that live adjacent between this side and Mountain View corridor, and that are going to be, they're going to remain there as far as last I heard, and I don't know if there's during the design and construction phase of how that'll impact them that will remain there as neighbors now and will have this there. That's sort of the only this negative, you can call it negative feedback that I've heard is those residents that will continue to stay there.
No, that's a great comment. And actually, we've done a lot of work, and I could have Aisha and Riley also comment on this. But there's been tons of work with the neighbors just because of the close proximity and so forth. And I will note that even as we're looking to finalize the construction and design firms, we're actually asking for a neighborhood project manager and so forth to really help understand the traffic and all their concerns. We've been working with them for quite a while. We have received some very honest feedback, very good feedback for us to hear, but sometimes it's been sometimes really eye-opening, right, to hear that. And that's where we've been sort of trying to be lockstep to these community discussions as well. Riley, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just note, so in that pamphlet, we just highlight that we've had at least 3 conversations with the neighbors. We go door to door, we send them flyers, invite them personally to come and meet with us in person. They've had one meeting where they've been able to meet with the architects, and that was it was a different process than we're in now, and we'll continue to engage the architects in the conversation with the neighborhood. And I will just say right before this, Aisha and I were at Ascent Academy, which is the charter school, and they walked us through the academy. We went to the 2nd floor to see what the kids are going to see when they're looking out those windows, looking at the hospital. And so we're really doing whatever we can to make sure that we're considering all points of view as we're in this process of building the facility. So any feedback like that is welcome. Any groups that you think that we're missing, we want to meet with them because we want to make this as best as we can for everybody.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that one.
Okay.
You mentioned about 2,000 new jobs going to be here with that site. So are you going to plan it to have like residents in West Valley City?
Yeah.
Participate in that?
Medical residents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are planning to have rotations of our students and residents out there to be with those departments you saw on the list. So absolutely. We have students that are super excited to be there as part of their curriculum.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so
really
much.
Appreciate the update. All right, we'll now turn the time over to Margaret Peterson, one of our former council members, and she'll give us an update on the community education partnership.
Thank you, Mayor. Before University Utah Hospital people leave, I would love to set up a partnership for after-school programs and have some classes.
Right.
Oh, you're here. You're the in charge. So if you have a card, I can contact you. We would love to have some after-school opportunities.
I'll wait till afterwards.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm Margaret Peterson, former city council member, former planning commission member, and former National League of Cities Executive Committee, former Utah League of Cities Board of Directors. That's just some of them. And I started Community Education Partnership in 2000 when we first started meeting as a group of concerned citizens, council members, and people in the community who wanted to improve the outcomes of our kids in school. That's where it started. We incorporated in 2004. And since then, we've served about between 16 and 20,000 students in after-school programs. So in April 17th of last year, I presented a more detailed background on CEP. If anyone needs that, I don't know what's behind me. Oh, here's our charts. These are our outcomes. We started collecting data that was required by communities, First Century Community Grants. And I continued with those surveys. These are surveys given to day teachers of after-school participants. And the day teachers evaluated the students' outcomes during the day. And we have kept track of all that data and to see if it changed, improved, got worse, whatever. So this is the mini grant program. Can you switch to the orange one? Looks like, there it is. So the orange one shows the data when we had 21st century grants that were required to be 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. So this was a full-time program. And when we switched to what we call mini grants that are funded by donors and West Valley City, programs are running 2 to 3 days a week. Some of them are 4, there's a couple that are 4, and they operate about an hour to 2 hours. And the outcomes are amazingly the same, which is against all research that I've read throughout the country, that you cannot have a successful after-school program unless it operates every day of the week. But look at the difference. Not very much, just a few percentage. So I'm not going to take a lot of time on that. I have some handouts if you'd like those. And I was waiting to see who all was here and introduce our group of people. You should know by now that I never come alone. I always bring somebody. Our board chair, Stephen Bueller, former city council member. Sharon Sonnenreich, a board member, principal of Silver Hills Elementary. Brian, principal of Valley Junior High. Brian Murray. He was also a coordinator. Is that Kennedy?
No,
Hunter Junior. Now he's principal at Valley. Does a great job. Susan Klinker is on our board of directors, represents West Valley City. So today happens to be parent-teacher conferences, or we'd have twice as many people here. Just kidding. So we appreciate those principals in particular who stepped away to come and present their feedback, their opinions on how after-school programs impact their schools. Also, I've submitted some letters of support to Nicole from those principals who couldn't be here, and a coordinator submitted a letter. There's also a list of our board of directors. We have lots of business representatives, school representatives, West Valley City represented by Susan. So we have a good advisory group that tells me what to do. And good luck on that, huh? Really, they're invaluable, absolutely invaluable. So I don't make any decisions without their approval. I do all the hard work and they nod or they know. Any questions on that? I'll turn the time over to our guest speakers. Principal Brian Murray from Valley will be first. And Principal Sharon Sonnenreich from Silver Hills will be second. And our coordinator from Silver Hills, Kaylin Oldroyd, will be third. And she has a student with her. And I think the student has her mother here who can come in if she's feels up to that. Then we have a behavior specialist from Truman Elementary, Angela Alsop. Very excited to hear from her, as well as everyone. So you're going to get the principal's point of view, the coordinator's point of view, and the behavior specialist point of view. And then very last, we'll hear from the very best, Chairman Stephen Bueller. Thank you. It's your turn.
Good evening. As Margaret introduced me, I'm Brian Murray, the principal at Valley Junior. I have taught, lived, worked in West Valley 14 years out of my 20 in education. So I actually live not too far from here, bought a teacher next door house in the Hillsdale area. I taught and coached at Hunter Junior for 11 years and first met Margaret about 10 years ago as a CEP coordinator, where we actually did partner with U of U Health and we had pig heart labs back then. So it would be good to have that partnership again. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and to talk about my school. There's a lot of good things going on right now. I imagine over the years, a lot of you in here have had students at Valley.
or that I've taught or coached throughout the years. This year, we were recognized by the Granite School District Board of Education for one of the highest proficient improvement schools. There were 3 that were recognized with that. We were one of them. We grew between 3 to 4% in math, English, and science. We also had a significant reduction in office referrals. So we use a program called Educator's Handbook, and the 3-year trend on that went from 1,050 to 670. And by semester 1, this year we were 180. So roughly splitting in half every year. We also got recognized by the board twice for a program called Everyday Counts. So in Granite School District, we were the #1 school in attendance improvement in the month of October, and we're 5 months straight in attendance improvement. And also thank you for all of you who are involved with West Valley City and Valley. We actually got a crosswalk push button safety flasher installed, which is good. Not on my notes, we have had 3 incidences of students being hit in West Valley, not at school crosswalks, just throughout the community. So that the safety is important for me, and thank you for doing that. My PTA is also very appreciative of that. So regarding the importance of after-school programs, they are key to helping students stay engaged, finding connections, finding a sense of belonging in a school. Oftentimes, we don't know what gets a student interested or involved in school. Sometimes it's during the school day, sometimes it's after. Like Margaret mentioned, sometimes they're not going to be hundreds of kids all week, but the connections and having an adult that cares in a safe space is vital. So while we mentioned that, it is vital to have continued support to be able to fund those type of programs, because in public education, we're often given mandates without funding backing, which is challenging. At the end of the day, a strong school creates a strong community. And I feel that as an educator and as a principal. And so I'm proud of all of the accomplishments that we've done, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you. I'm Sharon Sonnenreich. I have been a member of the Board of Directors of CEP for 4 years now, and I'm currently privileged to serve as a member of Margaret's Executive Committee, and we do always say yes because her ideas are always fabulous. I wanted to talk a little bit about how powerful that mini grant money really is. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of money as an individual piece, but to me, it can be the difference between running a successful after-school program and not having an after-school program. I blend my after-school program funding together from 3 different streams. I have a grant from the Ron McBride Foundation. I have a partnership with an organization called Tennis and Tutoring that hires a tennis coach and provides funding for academic tutoring in the school. And then for the rest of it, I rely on CEP mini grants, and that's the money that you help flow through to me. This year, we would be out of money and closing our program about a week ago if I did not have those additional mini grants, because there simply is not enough money from those other sources to keep a program that goes later in the year. One of the fun things we're doing with the money this year is it's our first ever elementary school musical. We are super excited. The money is going to pay for a teacher to direct. She also wrote our script. It's Jack and Jill the Musical. Highly recommended. It's buying costumes. It's providing a piano player to help rehearse with the kids. Theater is so powerful. It's part of our fine arts education, which is something that many kids don't get exposed to, but yet it's something that keeps kids in school, in high school. You know, there are so many kids who would detach from education if there wasn't something to hold them there. And your mini grants are absolutely essential to allowing people like Brian and me to create those programs that keep our kids in school. I simply can't thank you enough.
Hi, my name's Kaylin. I've been an after-school coordinator at Silver Hills for 11 years. And I came all prepared, but I knew I was going to blow this. So I'm just going to put one thing in your head before I start talking. The first hour before school and the 2 hours after school are the most critical for a lot of kids, especially these kids that are latchkey kids that are walking home and have nobody there when they get home. My job has been to entertain those kids, whether it be through academics, behavior, or these mini grants that are able to provide fun activities like the play. Our tennis and tutoring program is amazing. I think my goal has been to build relationships with these kids and their families. I've had kids the whole 11 years. I've had families come the whole time. Those kids are now coming back and volunteering. I've got tons of kids from Hunter High School coming down and volunteering. They're student body officers. They were kids that I taught. I also have 3 kids that came this year that made madrigals at Hunter High School. So proud of them because they did my mini grant program with you guys years ago. Sent pictures. I hope you guys were able to get those. These kids are amazing and they deserve opportunities. And a lot of the kids in this area don't get those opportunities without them being offered at school. So we do what we can to bring in what we can with what funds we have, which sometimes is very hard. I brought with me my daughter, who's been with me since she was 16 as a volunteer. She's 27 now. She volunteers. She works in an attorney's office. They even let her get off work to come volunteer at the school with us. She's taught choir and done other things that are the side academic things with the or enrichment projects with the kids. My family's here with me. My husband's here. Her son, my son-in-law's here, because these kid people, they know how much these kids mean to me. I don't need a second job. I have a really good first job, but I want to be there because I look at those eyes every day and they melt me. And this is one of them. This is Josephine, who's been with me now 3 years. She's an amazing kiddo. She brought her own little speech she's going to read. But I want to tell you, the outcomes that we see up here would not be as good as they are without your guys' help. We need your funding. Please don't stop. We really need you.
So I've been going to the after school program for 3 years, and one of the activities I signed up for was Lego League. I've been going to Lego League for 2 years, and it taught me how to be a better leader and teammate. And when I'm not in Lego League, I'm in after school and we do lots of fun activities like choir and lots of coloring and yeah.
What's your favorite part of after school?
Oh, all of it.
Your favorite staff, that's what matters the most. So on that note, I want you guys to always remember that hour before school and 2 hours after. We need this. We really need this for these kids, guys. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angela Alsop. I'm the behavioral health aide at Truman Elementary for 7 years now and the coordinator for the after-school tutoring program. We are not a Title I school, so we're really grateful to have the funding for this after-school program. As the behavior aide, I'm always looking for more ways to support and encourage the students at our school, and this program has been a wonderful way to give that extra support. The program offers ways to help our kids gain confidence and security in many areas. Some of our students even have food insecurities, and with the extra snack that comes with the after-school program, they love that. They learn more through the extra attention in the small groups, and this helps them to be successful throughout the school day. When the students are confident and feel they can succeed with the schoolwork, we've seen less office referrals and less absences during school hours. The students have built rapport with many more adults in the building, so when behavioral issues do come up, it's easier to work as a team. The program provides a positive environment for extra academic support, and when the students feel better about the schoolwork, it helps in their everyday social interactions. I have gotten positive feedback from the students about how much they love coming to the after-school program. In fact, many of them were disappointed this week that they don't get to come. So we hope to be able to continue this in the future. It's an extra opportunity to help the kids in our community. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Peely, it's good to be with you today. No, we're at the end of our time. When Margaret showed me what she had planned, I said, we don't have an hour. We just have a few minutes, but she's kept it really, really good and succinct here. I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, we're giving you a certificate of appreciation, suitable for framing, frames sold separately. We are on a budget. We are coming to the end of our 5-year contract with West Valley City to provide funding for our program. And those who will remember, we came and asked West Valley City for funding because the federal funding and the state funding dried up. Without your funding, there wouldn't be no community education partnership. Those 20,000 students were all West Valley City residents. If your child or your neighbor's child participated in after-school programs over the last 20 years, they were probably community education partnership programs. We'd like to continue that. Your constituents expect you to provide something towards education. Even 2 weeks ago, when we were here looking for the candidate to fill this seat here, somebody said, I want to make education better. Well, and we have very limited opportunities to do that as a city. But this is something that you can go back to your constituents, your neighbors, your friends, and tell them, we support education in West Valley City by providing funding for the Community Education Partnership. Granite provides us the building space, but we need to pay teachers to work an after-school job to provide this additional education, this support for the students. And as you know, we've had great outcomes. Our contract with the city was $90,000 a year. That was a big drop from the hundreds of thousands of dollars we were receiving for the previous 15 years. But Margaret has figured out a way with the principals, the coordinators to make this work, to provide good activities, to be able to support these children and help them in their education. We would like to continue that. As you know, since the pandemic, everything costs more. And we would ask you to increase our budget. We'd like $1 million, but we'd ask you for $120,000 a year. Out of a $10 or a $100 million budget, that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but we can keep the level of support for these students that we've maintained and provided. Margaret does a great job. We'd like to get a check from you again late this year so we can continue those programs. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know you hear a lot from me. Those that are participating in the Community Education Partnership, you can see they're passionate about it. They recognize the importance of this, but it's something that by and large is unseen. And those kids going to school, they don't really know that you're funding it, but you can tell them that. Questions for me? Will?
Yeah, just looking, I mean, you brought it up yourself that the funding has gone down, and I'm just looking at your 990 where funding public support was over 384,000, and looks like last year was less than 100,000. And then on the website, current partners are 10, where previous partners there were 24. So just candidly, do you see this program continue to be sustainable? And 3 to 5 years from now, I mean, are there other sources of support from other entities?
I would say whether it's sustainable is your decision, because prior to coming to the council, we tried everything we could think of, private funding raising, and had the members of the board out there trying to brainstorm and ask people. And when those 21st century grants dried up, and they were scheduled to dry up, and then the federal government stopped providing those funds and the state wanted to shift those to more rural communities. That's why we brought this to the council, obtained that $90,000 a year funding for 5 years. It's worked great over the 5 years. We ask you to continue to fund this. But will we continue to do the programs? Yes. Can we maintain a high level of outcomes? I believe so. That's what we've shown over the 5 years. But can we get the funding from somewhere else? No. If West Valley decides not to do that, the other little drips and drabs contributions that we get, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, are not going to keep this sustainable. We'll just have to close our doors. Don't let Margaret know I said that, but that's how I see it. And we don't even have doors. What's that?
You can answer some more of that.
Would you?
Well, the very first funding we got was with Senator Orrin Hatch. I met with him as a city council member and we talked about our new after-school program. And he gave us $250,000. Wow, I mean, we did a lot with that. And then we were having a meeting one day and there was a lady in the back. I didn't know who she was. She says, I'm with the county Family Services Department. I'd like to give you a grant. My word, here's another grant. They're just coming out of the sky. And then we got grants with, excuse me, I've been allergic to something in this building since it was built. No kidding. Every time I come in here, I have to chew gum so I don't cough. So we started, it was me, started writing grants. And we got a grant from Workforce Services at the state, Criminal and Juvenile Justice with the state, and through the Family Services. So we got 3 separate state grants. And we also got federal 21st century grants through the State Department of Education. So there were several years, we had $1 million a year of grant money. And Steve and the board members know that I tried and tried and tried to get them. In about 2017, 2018, everybody's priorities switched to rural areas. They were thinking, and I'm sure they do, rural kids need the funding. So all of that 21st century money was taken out of the cities. I don't know anyone who has it now. I haven't looked thoroughly into it. Then it went to refugees, and the city administrators for after school were left out. We hired twice. We hired companies that raise money and write grants for us. They couldn't get it either. We have a board member who isn't here, Michael Anglin, who's donated $5,000 of his own money. So this is where we are, and we have tried. Anybody who knows how hard we've tried knows that we're at the line right now. West Valley City is it. The other issue was the pandemic. I mean, all of the educators can tell you what has happened, the difference in schools. It is shocking, the difference that it is with families, children, and the environment in the communities are so different now. And teachers are getting, they got raises through the district. So in order to get them to volunteer to work and give them funding enough to make it beneficial for them to stay and work and sweat and go on to help kids, we need to give them a little more money. So we've had principals, and it's a partnership between CEP and the principals, like Sharon and Brian and the others who were at Parent Teacher Conference. Hopefully you got some of those letters. It's a partnership, and they have all said our after-school employees need to be paid a little bit more. The other advantage that has really made a difference with our programs is the format, the structure that we have. Rather than hiring YMCA and Boys and Girls Club, university students who do a good job, we hire staff and teachers at the school who know the kids, know what they need, have a relationship, and they know how to improve. That's why we're seeing these good outcomes, because it's the teachers and the aides at the school who are working with the kids. They already have a good relationship, and this improves their relationship and their outcomes during the day. So I could go on and on, but that's That's the funding issue, isn't? We aren't where we are because we didn't try.
No. We would like a member of the city council to join our board. That historically has been something that we've had. As you meet in your retreat or discuss these different assignments, we'd like to have a city council member on our board. But the bottom line is, we want to continue to help these kids. We need funding to do that. We would like your continued help. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you all that gave or presented in this application. We appreciate it, the update. All right, did anybody have any other questions? All right, we'll now go to our annual training on ethics, open meetings, and sexual harassment. Turn the time over to Mr. Bunderson.
I know, if you want to stay, Mr. Bueller, you're welcome to stay. Watch the rest of them, watch how fast they're going.
It sounded so intriguing though.
Okay, I have a question for the council. Eric Bunderson, city attorney for the record. There's a 7-minute video on open meetings. It's actually really great. Have it in the middle of the presentation. We can do it now, kind of take a break from all the talking. We can do it at the end, or I can leave it in the middle. It's up to you guys.
I'll save it for the end.
Save it for the end. All right. All right. So, yeah, as the mayor said, tonight is our required annual ethics and open meetings. Ethics are pretty easy. You need to disclose your conflicts. That's the big one. You shouldn't use your position to benefit others, and you shouldn't tell secrets that the city grants you through your position. So
Can't use it to benefit other people.
or benefit other people. Can't do that.
Have personally on,
What's that?
personally on yours.
The slides at first.
Slide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, benefit yourself personally or other people. Thank you. Shorthand. But that's a very good point, sir. Okay. So, and again, and I've told you this for many years, the way the Utah system works is contemplating small town part-time councils who have conflicts. That's okay. It's okay to have conflicts. It's okay to be a member of an organization that is regulated by the city, all this stuff. We just need the disclosure and then everything's okay. So if you own a business, if you're doing business with the city, you have to disclose that. If you're a part or a member or an owner of a business regulated by the city, you have to disclose that. If you are consulting, like for example, if you were consulting with the U of U and helping them get in front of the city council and getting paid for that, okay, you just have to disclose it. And then any other conflict that would affect the way you make your decisions, and that's kind of a broader one, you also have to disclose that. Ever have any questions about this, please come to me and I will be happy to go over each thing and work through it with you. So for the most part, obviously we don't take bribes. For the most part. But if somebody buys you lunch occasionally, that's okay. Okay, so the rule is an occasional non-pecuniary gift, which means non-cash gift, is okay. But if that gift is contingent upon a specific action or over $50, don't take it. And again, I think just the occasional lunch is okay, but I would be very careful anything else. And I should say at this point, these rules apply to the entire staff. And so they'll come to me sometimes and say, you know, this company, this vendor wants to fly me to New Orleans to this conference they're doing and buy the hotel rooms. And I'm like, no, especially someone like a vendor who can expect our business based on that gift, if you will. So the things you can do, as we've talked about in the past, are accept campaign donations, again, accept occasional gifts, and accept honorary awards and other things like that, like the certificate of appreciation tonight is just fine. The other thing that again, I said at the first, is if you have access to information that you have gotten through your employment at the city, that is real estate transactions, any other kind of information, you can't use that or make money from it. And that would be a violation. So the example I've always used, and Chief Jacobs hates it when I do this, but if you found out information about Susan Powell case and you wrote a book about it based on that information, that would be a violation of our ethical rules. Now, I said that it's easy, and it is. You mostly just have to disclose and don't take bribes, but the punishments are actually very harsh for violating any of these rules. They range anywhere from felony convictions, which can include prison, jail. A lot of the violations include termination. Again, if you're staff level, they can include a shall terminate. If you're elected official level, some of them do require removal from office. So it is a quite serious thing. Easy to stay on the good side. If there's a violation, it can be quite bad. Any questions on any of the ethics? Okay, we're going to skip the video then for open public meetings and jump to sexual harassment. Mostly just to tell the council and to give you the assurance that the city takes all kinds of harassment very seriously. We have a robust investigation program. There's actually a person who's assigned to just investigate violations like this in internal employee problems. We take immediate action every time. Doesn't always make everybody happy, but we take immediate action. And we have actually developed a culture, and this has just been in the last few years that I've been really proud of our employees, where if they see something that's a violation of some kind of sexual harassment rules, they will come to us and tell us. And that hasn't always been the case. And I think that's maybe the changing mores of our employees or the good training that we've been doing, but one or the other, they really have stepped up, and that's made me really happy over the last couple of years. Any questions about that? All right, so this is a really good video. I'm kind of contemplating running it at 1.12 speed, just because we're running a little behind, and I think you can still understand it, but I'm going to switch over to that. And then if there's any questions after that, I will be up here for questions. Yeah, and this is for the state auditor's office.
So what is the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. We focus on local government, not state requirements. When in doubt, read the law and consult with your legal counsel. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a public body quorum, also known as a simple majority, meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget, imposes or increases taxes or fees, or transfers money from an enterprise fund. These meetings have extra notice and posting requirements and won't be addressed in this video. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. OPMA adds additional requirements too. An emergency meeting may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and the governing body majority approves the meeting. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, collective bargaining, litigation, certain real property transactions, including any form of a water right or water shares with specific restrictions, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information per the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. A closed meeting may be held only if a quorum is present and the meeting was properly noticed. 2/3 of the governing body present at the meeting need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members present at the meeting. If 3 out of 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and would need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment, or take a vote, unless it's a vote on a motion to end the closed portion of the meeting and return to an open meeting. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved: the reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, or several other exceptions, mostly related to state bodies or project entities, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made, which includes date, time, and place of the meeting, names of members present and absent, and names of all others, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Regular open and public meetings require 24 hours notice. The public notice includes the meeting agenda, date, time, and place. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Additionally, entities holding regular meetings scheduled in advance over the course of the year need to provide annual notice of the entire year's meeting schedule. The notice must include date, time, and place for each meeting.
Notice is posted on the public body's website, in a public location such as the location where the meeting will be held, and on Utah's public notice website in accordance with Utah Code 63G-30-102.
Typically, posting on the public notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website, archives.utah.gov. Written minutes and a recording are kept of all open meetings, with few exceptions. Written minutes include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters, names of citizens providing comments, the substance of the comments provided, any information a body member requests be entered into the minutes or recording, and a record by individual member of each vote taken. A body with elected members must record each vote in list format by category for each action taken by a member, including yes votes, no votes, and absent members next to each member's name. A recording must be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from beginning to end, and be labeled with the meeting date, time, and place. All or any part of an open meeting may be independently recorded by any person in attendance if the recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Pending minutes means written minutes of an open meeting in draft form subject to change before being approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes, and that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. Approved minutes means written minutes of an open meeting approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Entities must establish and implement procedures for the public body's approval of written minutes. Public meeting pending minutes, approved minutes, and recordings are public records under GRAMA. Any individual who publicly presents information relating to an item on the public body's meeting agenda must provide a copy of the information for inclusion in the public record. Make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days. Within 3 business days after approving written minutes of an open meeting, make approved minutes and any public materials available at the Utah Public Notice website, the entity's primary office, and the entity's website. Within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, make an audio recording of the open meeting available to the public for listening.
So on the third watch of that, I realized the sound effects are kind of weird, so I'm sorry about that. I thought it was you guys making those noises for a minute. It's coming from the speakers over there. So a couple things from that video. The electronic meetings, we adopted that ordinance during 2019, 2020. And we have that in place, so we're legit there. And obviously all the hard stuff, as you could see, Ms. Kamack does, and she does such a great job of doing all those technical details that all the rest of us can kind of just sit back and talk and do our jobs. So any questions about any of that open meetings information? Sir?
Just on the notice, it said that as a body, we're responsible to ensure that it happens, but I've never verified. I just have faith and confidence that it'll happen. Oh, what else?
I mean, I think the way you ensure that is that you hire a really good city manager who hires a really good city recorder who gets it done. I mean, truly, I think that's the way our government set up is that's the answer.
We could go on the websites and verify it.
I promise you.
Any other questions? I won't do that substitute teacher thing every year, but I thought it was good every once in a while that we go over the whole thing, including the technical details of the minutes. Didn't know it was going to be on a night like tonight but there we are. Any other questions about any of the information? Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. All right, we'll now turn the time over to Mr. Hill for our legislative update.
All right, Brandon Hill with the Legal Department back. So it is starting to speed up at the Capitol. And you can tell that because a new housing bill actually was released between the time I talked last and right now. And my answer is it's fine just the way it is. No changes ever. So the biggest things that are happening right now are in a few different spaces. So law enforcement is really, really, really busy. There's a lot happening. There was a bill released yesterday that is frankly not a very good bill. I mentioned that in our bill tracker email to all of you guys, and we're working that bill pretty hard. The bill in its current format is unacceptable, and we're a hard no. It would essentially it puts us in a situation where we have to have DPS come in whenever they would like to and do law enforcement at our expense because we have a homeless shelter. And so we're working on that. And the indications I have at this point is that we were not really intended to be in that bill, but you know what they say about good intentions. So the housing land use space, as always, is really, really full. Like I said, we had Senate Bill 272 that just was released here a moment ago. And those bills are generally moving in a decent direction. House Bills 88 and 90 were defeated in committee. Your former colleague, Mr. Fitissimanu, was a good, solid voice of support for us on that. And so I want to thank him for that. One quick question. Raise your hand if you got the action alert email from ULCT about those bills. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people did. So they were testing out a more targeted version of that. So it's kind of like the Weather Service's warnings, where it used to be that if there was a tornado anywhere in Oklahoma, they would tell everybody about it. And so now they're trying to target it the same way for committees. And so, for instance, if you don't have a representative on the committee, you wouldn't have gotten those. So it's good to see that you got those. We're going to see a lot of new legislation popping out over the next week or so. This next week is kind of the last week that you see routinely a lot of new substantive stuff come out. There's likely to be a significant grandma bill. There's very likely to be a significant land use bill as well, in addition to what's already there. as you can see from the bill tracker, is the way the bill tracker is coming out helpful? Is there, is that good, bad, indifferent? Would you like to see something different with that?
Can you highlight the new ones?
Yeah.
Give them a different color or something?
For sure. And so for the brand new bills that haven't appeared before, I will put those in green so you can see those. And then the yellow will just be any change in status. So right now, most of the changes in status you've seen have been kind of preliminary. So you'll see like a fiscal note pop out or something like that. That seems really boring, but that's really important for somebody like me because I want to know what the legislature thinks a bill costs. And if that's radically different than what I think, then you want to work on that perception. On the other hand, when you see a bill you don't like that has a huge fiscal note, that's kind of a smile moment for you because you can say, my gosh, we just can't afford it this year. And so that's a good thing. But as you're starting to see bills on the reading calendar advancing. The other thing I wanted to update you about is the union bill. We've hit this a few times in the emails, but I want to make that clear. The union bill did pass. There was some fun drama surrounding that primarily involved the UEA. The bill that ultimately passed was a harder line version of that bill, but it does not affect the way anything in West Valley happens. So our firefighters, FOP, are all able to operate just as they have before, with really not even technical changes to how they'll operate going forward. And so if you're approached with any concerns, reassure them that that in West Valley, we're not affected. There are some other entities that are. So any questions that I can answer for you guys? It's moving fast, but not as fast as I'd like.
What's the last day?
Last day is March 7th.
Circled on your calendar?
Well, see, here's the problem with that is that happens. And then I got to go move my dad from Wisconsin. And so it's like, I've got to decide whether I want to be on I-80 in Wyoming or at the Capitol. Right now, I'll take I-80, I'll be honest with you. But, but as that day approaches, I might like the warm inside better. So busy time, but yeah, it's March 7th. So 45 days and it's in the state constitution. And as we all learned this last year, in order to change the state constitution, you have to tell everybody about it first. So, so no more extra days. March 7th is it.
Any bills for inland port?
Yes. Yes, there are two bills out currently that have something to do with the inland port. They are more minor changes and not things that are structural changes to the way the inland port operates. So there is one bill that allows the inland port to use what they call tax differential, which is the property tax money they collect. They would allow them to use it on housing projects and infrastructure. The infrastructure is immediately adjacent to the port area and the housing is broader. As drafted, those bills are not problematic, but that's a pretty sensitive subject. And so those are, you'll notice on the bill tracker, there are lots of those where the notes are essentially, this is fine the way it is, but it could go in a different direction. And so the inland port's a great example of one that I watch very closely for that.
Okay.
All right, you've been beaten into submission.
All right, we'll move to the council calendar. Are there any questions or concerns with that? Okay. Seeing none, any potential future agenda items?
I have one. Now we have enough, everyone right here. Welcome, Cindy. Yeah, I brought it up last time, but council, let's wait for, we have a full council members and everybody here, so we can bring it up. About the Hamlet homes, is that right? Yeah. And he sent it out 3 items. He talked to people, I believe, with council members. And is there any discussion? I think item number 1, 2, 3 or something is that we want to have any discussion about. We have 4 votes to get it put in us agenda for next meeting or something we can talk about. We can talk 1 point, 2 points, or maybe 3 points in that letter. So what any discussion you want to do?
So the developer wants to bring the development agreement back and make adjustments to it.
Right.
Good.
So is it ready? Are we ready to talk about that? I mean,
We-
I'm new, so
Well, yeah, so it's just whether or not we want it on the agenda for next meeting.
I think we need to get it on an agenda. He's been to many public meetings, and rather than continue to kick it down the road, probably ought to talk about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right, Cindy, just a yes or no for next meeting, we put in schedule and we can discuss and, make a decision from there.
Okay, is there anyone else? Takes 4 to want it on the next agenda. I need 2 more nods.
I think it could be discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, just have a
So-
communication.
yeah,
Whatever we need to do on the next agenda, but I think it could be a discussion we have.
Guess we'll kick it one more time. Okay, thank you. Council reports.
Just a fun one. I went to my hometown bowling activity they had on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
They had like 50 kids there and quite a party. So love my hometown.
Good.
On Thursday, last Thursday, I attended the Gerald Wright Community Council. And they are planning on February 26th on holding from 5:30 to 7:30 PM. They are holding a celebration about their school being renamed and rebranded to reflect its STEM designation. And they've invited multiple STEM-related entities, businesses to come put up a booth and talk to the students about what they do in their field. It sounds like city engineers will set up a booth and be present there. I'm planning on attending. They've asked to extend the invitation to the council and to the mayor at 5:30 to perhaps, Mayor, if you're available to make some remarks at the event, at the ribbon cutting. They're gonna have food trucks and a short little ribbon cutting and then the event.
Okay. Let's forward that information on to Angel and she can put it on everybody's calendar. And then, yeah, make sure we can get there. Okay.
I also noted it, so.
All right, thank you.
I was at the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District meeting this week. We have more mosquitoes abated in West Valley than the other entities in the county. And we only have 13 cities in our district, so. But it goes from Alta down to Provo and down to Utah County. They have a annual report on their website, which is a very interesting annual report. It only took us 45 minutes to go through a synopsis of it, telling you how detailed it is. But we can look up anything there. If you're interested, I can help you or whatever, but it does break down by community, each type of mosquito they trap, how many they trap, the results of testing those were. And it's one of those entities that we pay for with our property tax. Nobody knows about it. So if you have a mosquito problem, instead of calling the abatement district, call your lawn care person or something and pay another $100 to have the lawn care person do it. And we can come out and do it as part of your tax bill. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that too. we'll be getting some PR stuff from them and we'll get that to Sam when we get it. Get it into what we need to do.
Okay,
So.
great. Yes,
Under the audit committee meeting we had last week, another successful audit was completed. And I've left the audit materials as well as a report on our finances in my box in the city council room. So if anyone wants some exciting reading, pick that up and help yourself to that.
okay, thank you. All right, do we have need for a closed session? Okay, we just have one more action item. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.